Hi, I'm Charlie Daniels. Welcome to More Than the Music. You know, the early days of gospel music saw plenty of talented singing groups deliver the message of God's love to people all over America. And one of the first groups to make it big and stay that way was the LeFevres family.
Sing me a song about Jesus. Sing me a song about His love.
For nearly 6 decades, Eva Mae LeFevres, her husband Urias, and his brother Alphas made beautiful music together. And over the years, their down-home country sound earned them numerous Grammy nominations and Dove Awards. But the LeFevres were more than just a talented group of musicians. They were trendsetters. When other gospel quartets wouldn't dream of having a female MC, the LeFevres family figured the best one to be in the spotlight would be the person who's most comfortable there. And in their case, that person was Eva Mae. God's calling on Eva Mae's life began at an early age. Her father was a church planter who traveled from town to town bringing people together in brand new congregations. And because a big part of his ministry was music, the talents of his young daughter were put to good use.
She started playing the organ, piano when she was 4 years old, which was real unusual.
I think it came natural with her. She took very few lessons and she just learned from hearing. Anything she would hear, she could just sit down and play it. It was really quite amazing.
She sat on her daddy's knees, he'd pump the organ, she'd play. 4, 5, 6 years old in church. And she was traveling with him by the time she was 7, 8 years old.
With the kind of preaching her daddy was doing, there was no guarantee that there'd always be an instrument for Eva Mae to play. But that didn't stop the little girl from making music.
Daddy was poor. We just didn't have anything. So he would go to little churches and speak when they would let him, and he would have street meetings, and he'd put me on a box, orange crate or something, and get me to singing and draw him a crowd. And then he'd preach and take a little collection, and that's the way we lived for many years. When I needed new shoes, I would say, Daddy, let's go have a street meeting so I can get a new pair of shoes.
This spirited little girl from South Carolina was obviously destined for a musical career, but she never dreamed how it would come about. A couple of 100 miles away in Smithville, Tennessee, a young man named Urias LeFevres had formed a quartet with his brother Alphas and 2 friends they'd met at Bible school. After singing together for a few years, the group received an invitation from Eva Mae's father to sing at their church. From the moment the concert started, destiny took over.
Daddy had the LeFevres into our church when I was a little girl, about 12. My husband-to-be was in that group. And my daddy asked the quartet that night while they were singing, would you let my daughter sing one song with you? And they said they'd love for me to. And that was my first time to ever think that someday I might be able to make my singing and my piano playing a career.
Urias was only 16 years old when he met Eva Mae. Still, he saw something special in the young piano player and confessed his feelings to his brother Alphas.
He told Alphas after that first time when she was a kid, he said, that's my wife, that's the woman I'm going to marry when she grows up. And they did. When she was 17 years old, they got married.
Urias and Eva Mae tied the knot in 1934, 1 month after her 17th birthday. And talk about a match made in heaven. Eva Mae fit right in with the musical LeFevres. It didn't take long for her own unique musical style to shine through. Check out Eva Mae's flashy piano playing in this instrumental version of I'll Walk with Jesus. No doubt about it, Eva Mae LeFevres was what you might call a sugar stick. That's Southern talk for a natural-born star, but life in the spotlight wasn't always a piece of cake for this Southern girl. In fact, sometimes it brought nothing but trouble. And I'll tell you about it when More Than the Music returns. So you just sit there. Welcome back to More Than the Music. I'm your host, Charlie Daniels. You know, the LeFevres family started their singing career at just about the worst possible time you could imagine. It was during the Great Depression of the 1930s, and singing for your supper was the most lucrative career in the world. But the three original members of the group, Eva Mae, Urias, and Alphas, pulled together and they scraped by. But that became tougher to do once Eva Mae and Urias started a family. There were 5 children in all: Pierce, Maurice, Andrea, Mylon, and little Cherish Monte. In other words, there were plenty of mouths to feed. And so the lean years lasted until 1940, when their first big break came, with an offer to star on their own radio show. It was a dream come true, but it came with a price. The LeFevres radio show exposed them to audiences throughout the South, and folks liked what they were hearing. But in the days of early radio programs, everything went on the air live, and that meant some pretty tough hours for the LeFevre clan.
It was on at 6:45 every morning. There was no tape to tape it in advance or send it to the other station or whatever. You had to go and do it in person anytime it was done. So we'd work every night someplace in Georgia and drive home, be right up the next morning in the radio station about 6 o'clock so we could work by 6:45.
For a woman who'd been working since she was 5 years old, the early hours and time away from home didn't seem all that unusual. Even her kids seemed to have grown accustomed to their parents' demanding careers.
In the early years, Mom and Dad traveled a lot. Well, they would leave many times on a Thursday night, drive down somewhere 3 or 4 hours into South Georgia, sing at a high school auditorium, leave in the afternoon or morning and sing, and they'd be back home at 3 a.m. in the morning.
As normal as their schedule may have seemed to Eva Mae and the kids, the arrangement didn't sit well with the LeFevres' music industry peers.
I think where I received the most criticism that I ever received in my life was at a radio station. WGST in Atlanta, Georgia. We were on there for years and years. But the people working in there would say, "Why don't you stay home with your children? You don't need to be traveling." And, you know, and they said things that I wouldn't even say here, but I got a lot of persecution.
Eva Mae was breaking the rules of acceptable behavior for women of her day, especially considering her religious affiliation with the ultra-conservative Church of God.
My husband, he was Church of God, but he just didn't believe that it was wrong to wear a little makeup or a ring or some piece of jewelry if you wanted to. And little by little, he showed me and talked to me about it. And finally I put on a wedding band, and I was glad to get that.
I remember asking my dad, "Dad, if our church doesn't believe in wearing wedding bands, why do you and Mom wear wedding bands?" And he said, and at that point, our church didn't even believe in going to the movie theater. And Dad told me, he said, "Son, we go to that church because I believe primarily that my beliefs coincide." He said, "However, a movie in itself is not a sin, although you can go to a movie that is a sin. So you choose what's right and what's wrong." And Dad was a very firm believer of that.
Because she wanted to make a professional look on stage, Eva Mae had to make a lot of difficult choices, and that conflicted with Church of God teaching, and there were some people who just couldn't accept it.
I began to use a little bit of lipstick, but all this time our church didn't approve of it, and it was against our teachings. Our church then wanted you to wear long hair, and finally I cut my hair. And my church didn't work the LeFevres a lot because I broke the rules. I know that that was it, because outside of that, they loved us.
Although Eva Mae's appearance may have put off some of the more conservative audience members, most of the concert-going public was more than happy to accept the talented group, which was growing all the time. You see, once the LeFevre kids were old enough, most of them joined their parents on stage. That gave the group a much fuller sound. And soon enough, their popularity began to skyrocket, especially Eva Mae's. As a result, the music industry press dubbed her the Queen of Gospel Music. Needless to say, Eva Mae was tickled pink.
When I hit the stage, I hit it with nothing in my mind but trying to make the people happy, trying to be excited, and which I was excited. I loved my job to death. To me, it was a way of life, to try to bless somebody else.
Here's the LeFevre family led by the Queen herself with a snappy little number called Shout, Brother, Shout.
Shout, brother, shout. Shout, brother, shout. When you get that feeling, shout, brother, shout. Look the world right in the eye. Send him up and home on high. When you get that feeling, shout, brother, shout. When you feel the Spirit running in your soul, then you know the Lord has full control. Shout, brother, shout. Shout, brother, shout. When you get that feeling, shout, brother, shout. Look the world right in the eye. Send him off that home on high. When you get that feeling, shout, brother, shout. Shout, brother, shout. Shout loud and sing. Lift your praises to Christ our King. Let the world know you belong. Let them hear your happiest song. When you get that feeling, shout, brother, shout. When you feel the Spirit running in your soul, then you know the Lord has full control, and you can shout, brother, shout. Shout, brother, shout. When you get that feeling, shout, brother, shout. Look the world right in the eye. Let them up that home on high. When you get that feeling, shout, brother, shout, brother, shout, brother, shout.
Don't you go nowhere, because More Than the Music will be right back, I promise. Whether you're singing gospel music, country music, or rock and roll, one thing's always true. Making a name for yourself takes a lot of time, and that can be tough on a family, especially the kids. In the case of the LeFevres, their youngest son, Mylon, took it the hardest. Extremely headstrong and incredibly talented, Mylon needed lots of love and attention, something that Uriah's and Eva Mae's concert schedules simply didn't allow for. Feeling neglected, Mylon broke away from the family business and made a name for himself in the world of rock music. Unfortunately, he picked up some bad habits along the way. Drug and alcohol abuse made Mylon LeFevre an entirely different person. He did everything he could to leave his family and all they stood for behind. The rift grew so bad between father and son that it seemed nothing could bridge the gap between them. But like the Bible says, there's a season for everything. And for the LeFevre clan, things were about to change. Decades of singing and traveling had finally caught up with Uriah LeFevre. Tired and in failing health, he sold the group's touring bus and all of their equipment to faithful friend and band member Rex Nealon. While Uriah settled into a well-deserved retirement, Eva Mae and Alphas continued touring with Nealon for a few more years. But in 1977, even they decided to call it quits. For a group that had made such an impact on the world of gospel music, it looked like things would end quietly. Then in 1979, a seemingly minor accident changed everything. Uriah had taken a bad fall at home, and the wound refused to heal. Eva Mae finally prevailed upon her stubborn husband to go to the doctor, but time was already running out. Uriah LeFevre was diagnosed with cancer, and Eva Mae was told he had only a few months to live. Ironically, the woman who had sung about faith in the Lord for so many years suddenly found herself in a situation where her own belief failed her.
You know, all those many years, I had testified to every audience we had ever sung to and told them, when you get in trouble, what you do. You go to the Lord and you give Him your problems. And then I found out that I wasn't able to do that myself.
Eva Mae simply couldn't imagine life without Urias. There were just too many things left for him to do, and at the top of that list was a much-needed reconciliation between father and son. But with the way things stood, healing between the two men seemed impossible. Stay with us. More Than the Music will be right back. The last thing Mylon LeFevres wanted was to meet with his dad. But when he found out that his father was running out of time, Mylon knew he had to take that first step.
When Daddy was dying of cancer in '79, you know, I was really stoned. I was in rock and roll, and I went to the hospital to see him. I had a guilt, I guess, because we didn't even like each other. I loved him, but I didn't like him.
The shadow of death gave God the perfect opportunity to break down the walls that had been built between Urias and Mylon.
Dad asked me to read the Bible to him. He never asked me anything like that before. And I started reading the Bible, man. I just started weeping. Didn't want him to see me crying. I'd only seen, my dad only cried twice in front of me my whole life. He just started weeping. He said, "Son, I hadn't been a very good daddy." He said, I was too hard on you. And I tried to teach you what was right, but I didn't live it in front of you. And he asked me to forgive him. And I asked him to forgive me for being such a rebellious, you know, hard-headed kid.
Mylon mended fences with Urias. It was just in the nick of time. Only a few days later, the LeFevres patriarch died with his loving wife by his side.
He passed away about 10 that morning. I was by myself, and the nurse came in and said, "I'm going to stay with you." She saw what was happening.
Eva Mae's heart was broken, but during her hour of greatest tragedy, her faith began to grow. For the first time in her life, Eva Mae turned all her worries over to God, including the fate of her wayward son, Mylon. And when she did, something miraculous happened. Her prodigal son decided to return home. At a Christian rock concert, Mylon LeFevres experienced the miraculous touch of God's healing hand. He was delivered from his drug addiction and left his old life behind. Now he's back singing for the Lord in his own special way. And Eva Mae, she's learned life's most important lesson. Trust in God no matter what. No matter what the circumstances. He'll never let you down.
Once I wandered alone in blackness and night. Once I struggled along, far from God and right. Then I saw I was lost, and in my despair I fell upon my knees in prayer.
I was down on my knees,
way down on my knees, praying
to my Lord every day. I was praying to Jesus to hear me plead and take my heavy burdens away. Oh, Satan tried to tell me the Bible was a lie, that Jesus did not love me and brought him to die. But I stayed on my knees, stayed on my knees. Jesus took my burdens away. I had fallen so low in sin and in shame that it seemed almost hopeless to trust His name. But I lifted my voice and cried in despair, and Jesus heard my humble prayer. I was down on my knees, praying to my Lord every day. I was praying to Jesus to hear me plead and take my heavy burdens away. Oh, Satan tried to tell me the Bible was a lie, that Jesus did not love me and I was doomed to die. But I stayed on my knees, down on my knees. Jesus took my burdens away.
For More Than the Music, I'm Charlie Daniels saying thanks for watching. Until next time, you keep a song in your heart.
Spirit running in your soul.
Get Get the full story on your favorite gospel groups with the extended home video version of More Than the Music, available on DVD and VHS at your local Christian music store or at tln.com.
Look the world right in the eye, send him off that home on high. When you get that feeling, shout, brother, shout. Shout, brother, shout, shout loud and sing. Lift your praises to Christ our King. Let the world know you belong, let them hear your happy song. When you get that feeling, shout, brother, shout. When you feel the Spirit dwelling in your soul, then you know the Lord has full control, and you can shout, brother, shout, shout, brother, shout. When you get that feeling, shout, brother, shout. Look the world right in the eye, tell them off that home on high. When you get that feeling,